I have been engaged for the last 3 months. We talked about having a November wedding. He would like us to get married in his home country, as it will be easier for his family there. He says he is not close to his siblings and mother, who live in the United States, as he was raised by his grandparents. I'm okay with having the wedding in his home country, since I want him to have his family present as well. We talked about having 30 guests, close friends, and family. I called various venues to get information. He even had one of his cousins visit the venues to get an idea of the places, since neither one of us was able to travel. We had a couple of disagreements that made me concerned about how we handle conflict. When a situation arises, he fights, becomes condescending, and does anything to win the argument. Then, when the emotions settle, he withdraws and does not want to talk about the issue, which makes it very hard to resolve anything. Just for reference, I had him over for lunch. He offered to help. I was making tostones, which are fried plantains, so I asked him to cut the plantains. After I showed him how to cut them by cutting one, I continued to prepare the rest of our meal. When I turned around, he did something completely different than what I showed him. He saw the disappointment in my face. Before I could say anything, he got angry and defensive. He commented that he was not a child, he should be able to cut the plantain however he chooses, and that it could still be eaten. He was so angry, he put on his shoes and stood by the doorway. I stayed very calm and finished preparing my meal silently. I sat at the table alone and ate. The entire time he stood by the doorway watching me. Halfway through my meal, while still standing by the doorway, he said he wanted to talk. We spoke, but never directly addressed what had just happened. He asked for food to take with him and said, we would talk about this another time. We never did talk about it. I was at his place doing an assignment for our premarital class. My phone battery was very low at 7%. We needed to look up information, so I asked him if he could use his cell phone since his was fully charged. He answered that his cell phone was his and that he would use it only if he wanted to. He was upset and refused to complete the assignment since he did not want to use his cell phone. I was getting upset myself at his behavior, so I proposed to take a time out. I came back an hour later, hoping we could talk about it. He wanted me to speak first, then afterward he said, "Thank you for sharing," and said nothing more. I sought the help of the premarital counselor and read books on managing conflict in a relationship. That was 1 month ago, and there has been no conflict since. Now for an update. Yesterday, he said, "I know you may not like what I'm about to say, but I don't want a November wedding. I want a January wedding with only maybe 2 witnesses." I asked him the reason for the change to understand him better. The only explanation I was given is that he feels November may be too stressful since we have not been discussing wedding details for about a month. I'm not sure what to think, since he wants to scale back from 30 guests to 2 witnesses and no longer seems to care now if his family is present or not. If he is scaling back, why push the date since there is not much to prepare for? I'm not opposed to an intimate wedding, but I still want something special. This makes me feel that it is being taken away from me and that it is about him, not us. I'm feeling at this point that it always falls on me to make things work in the relationship. Since that conversation yesterday, I have not heard back from him, even though he always texts me every morning. I don't know what to do. Any advice? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. He was so angry he put on his shoes and stood by the doorway. The entire time he stood by the doorway watching me. I had to look at his age because that sounds like a bratty teenager. He's 46. How long have you been together? And if this is how he is, why do you want to marry him? Money? Comment 2. I think I would be more concerned about the condescending behavior, the silent treatment, the temper tantrums, the selfishness, and the passive aggression. Are you sure you're not marrying a very immature 17-year-old? Now for the update. Almost a month went by since the last talk with my fiance about our wedding plans, and honestly, I was just done with it. I was trying to give him space to figure out whatever he was doing, but I was also freaking out about this whole thing. I was losing sleep, losing weight. I couldn't even enjoy the pumpkin spice lattes that I waited all year for. This guy was ruining fall for me. Just when I thought I was going to have to break up with him on a pumpkin patch date, he texted me out of nowhere, asking to meet at a local restaurant to talk. I guess I can say I was surprised. The restaurant was this super popular spot in our area. You know the kind, always packed, with a vibe so loud you can barely hear the person next to you. They had outdoor seating, and let's be real, who doesn't love that? So anyway, I get there, and he's already seated, looking like a zombie scrolling through his phone. We exchanged pleasantries, but honestly, the awkwardness was so thick it was hard to deal with. It was like we were strangers trying to act like we weren't. He casually mentioned how he had been busy with work and didn't mean to leave me hanging. But dude, you totally left me hanging. He brings up the wedding date change, saying again that November was too stressful to plan for, and here we are, back at square one. I tried to talk about something, anything, to get us out of this weird loop, and he just cuts me off, saying we should enjoy our time together. It was like I was talking to a wall. So that following week, I went to my best friend's birthday party, which was a welcome distraction. I confided in her about everything going on, feeling like I was losing my mind. She suggested I take a break from planning and focus on myself for a while. Honestly, I think she wanted to get me away from the wedding convo because I had been talking about it nonstop for weeks. It was all-consuming. One day, out of nowhere, I got a call from my fiance's mom. She's super nice, but she wanted to talk about the wedding, and I was like, oh no. During our chat, she expressed concern over the shrinking guest list. She mentioned that family traditions were important, and it really hit me. I thought this was a wedding for us, not some show for the family. She went on to say that many relatives were disappointed not to be invited, which really surprised me. I had no idea so many people cared, considering we were only inviting like 2 people. A few days after my chat with his mom, my fiance sent me a message asking to meet again. He said he wanted to clear the air, but I wasn't feeling all that hopeful. We chose a park for our next meeting, thinking it would be more chill. I don't know, sitting on a bench wasn't going to fix our problems, but whatever. So, just when we start discussing the wedding again, my phone buzzes with a notification. I glance at it and see a picture of my fiance at a party with friends, clearly having a blast without me. I pointed it out, and he just shrugged it off, claiming he needed to unwind. That was it for me. I lost it on him, going off about priorities and how it felt like I was the only one trying to make this work. He looked shocked, and honestly, I was too. I just went off on him in the middle of a park, and people were staring. At that point, I said I needed space, and just like that, I walked away. I felt like I was at a turning point. I needed to take control of this mess, so I decided to plan a surprise engagement party with my friends. I figured it would be a fun way to celebrate our relationship, and I wanted to invite family members, including his mom, to make it meaningful for both sides. We settled on a weekend in mid-December, giving us some time to organize everything. When the day finally arrived, my fiancé looked shocked, but excited to see everyone gathered. The atmosphere was lively, and everyone shared stories, but he seemed a bit uneasy. I don't know, maybe he was processing everything. Still, the evening ended with him suggesting we revisit the wedding plans. Honestly, I just wanted a fun night with everyone I loved, and I got that. It felt good to just forget about the wedding drama, even if it was just for a few hours. Aita for wanting a beach wedding instead of a traditional church ceremony in Greece. Aita for wanting to change our wedding venue after my fiancé insisted we could plan it ourselves. Little information about us. My fiancé, who is 26 years old and male, is from Greece, and I, who am 26 years old and female, am from Germany. He moved to Germany 3 years ago, which is where we live. We both agreed we wanted to have our big wedding in Greece because he has a large family, and we want to have a wedding near the sea. When it came to searching for venues, it was very difficult because they are not marked properly on Google Maps. There is barely anything to find on Google. We found one venue that we ultimately booked by coincidence through an Instagram story of my boyfriend's friend. We both liked it online, but I told him I wanted to look at multiple venues, not just one. As I couldn't find much information about venues online, I suggested we hire a wedding planner. My boyfriend agreed, and we had calls with some, but ultimately my boyfriend said it would be a waste of money. We can do it ourselves. I said it's fine, as long as we look at multiple venues, like 2 or 3. He said fine, he would look into it. We traveled to Greece, visited the venue, and my boyfriend and his sister started negotiating the price in Greek. My Greek is not that good. The owner didn't speak English, my boyfriend didn't do any translation, and I felt excluded. I thought it was my fault for not speaking Greek well. I liked the venue, but there were a few things I didn't like. In the car, it became clear my boyfriend gave the impression it was 100% certain we would book it. I said I wasn't sure. I had asked the owner where the sun would set, and it turned out you can't see the sunset from the venue. I love sunsets. My boyfriend and his sister laughed at me in the car when I mentioned it and said it was a ridiculous question because the venue was perfect and this is not something the owner can change. I felt not taken seriously. I said I wanted to look at other venues too, as I had mentioned multiple times before, also just because it's fun. My boyfriend said there are no other venues for that many people next to the sea. So I agreed to the venue and thought it was okay. We paid the deposit and sent out save the date messages. However, now that I have searched photographers' Instagram thoroughly while looking for a photographer, I saw 3 other big wedding venues with a sea view from which you can see the sunset. Today, I wrote multiple emails just to see if they would be within our budget. When I showed my boyfriend, he got really upset and asked why I would look for other venues when we had already booked one. Also, these other wedding venues would be too far for his friends and family, a 2-hour car drive versus a 1-hour car drive to our booked venue. However, for my family and friends coming from Germany, our current venue is 2 hours from the airport. Others would be 3 hours, and one is under 1 hour from the airport. And if it's our dream venue, should we be concerned about a 1 versus 2 hour car drive? I feel upset. He didn't respect my wish to look at multiple venues or my wish to see the sunset on our wedding day. My question, what would you do in this situation? Visit other venues the next time we are in Greece, which is soon, and reconsider the venue or stick to the original one. Tips on how to handle the argument with my fiance. Now for an update. We just talked, and he was very understanding. He said what he meant by "there are no other venues" was that there aren't any others like this, as professional, big, and beautiful for that price. But he said, of course, if I am not happy with the location and want to change it, we can do that. He says he doesn't care about losing the deposit. All that matters is that I am happy with the location. He said together we can call a few other venues I found online and ask about the price to see if they would be within our budget. I am very happy he reacted that way. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Person, I say this with love and respect. You keep saying it's a cultural problem. That may be, but really it's a fiance problem. He doesn't respect your wishes. Period. Please let that sink in. I'll give you a minute. What's going to happen if you have children and he doesn't respect your wishes? What happens in an emergency if you have differing ideas about the right course of action to take? Have you ever faced a difficulty together? At the very least, I'd be postponing the wedding until I had more clarity. You do you. Hugs and good luck. Comment 2. I would be curious why he lied to you. He and his sister also laughed in your face. Why was his sister even there? And why does her opinion matter more than yours? I would be holding off on things until this is all sorted. Now, for the update. A few weeks after we booked the venue, his mom called me about the wedding. She had some strong opinions about the venue, especially about not having a traditional church ceremony. I was super stressed, but I told her we were looking at all options, even though we had already booked. I couldn't deal with it. During a weekend trip to visit his family in Greece, we went to a family gathering for his cousin's birthday. At the party, I overheard his relatives saying that a wedding should be in a church for it to be real. This made me and my fiance argue later that night about the wedding style. I suggested we could have a symbolic ceremony at the beach instead of a church, but he brushed it off. His mom then pushed for a church ceremony, and at that point, I felt really trapped. We argued privately, and he said I wasn't respecting his family's traditions. I tried to explain my side, but I felt ignored, which was frustrating for both of us. The next day, I tried to make things better by suggesting we check out a local church to see if it could work. He kinda agreed, but the visit felt forced and didn't help the tension. Back in Germany, I found a local wedding planner who does multicultural weddings. I thought reaching out for advice could help us find some common ground. The planner suggested mixing elements of both traditions, which sounded like a good compromise to me. I shared this idea with him, but he shot it down, insisting on a traditional ceremony. This led to a bigger argument, where he said I was trying to change his culture. At a family dinner, the wedding topic came up again when his relatives asked for updates. His aunt suggested they hold the ceremony at a historical church, which I thought was nice. He showed interest, but only if we ditched the beach idea completely, which started another fight. One day, while walking, I found a wedding expo happening nearby and decided to check it out. The expo had different vendors, and I found a booth for a venue that offered both a beach and a church option. Super excited, I took a brochure and texted him about the venue, hoping it could be a solution. He was annoyed that I found another option without talking to him first, sparking our conflict again. We argued over text, and he said I was being disrespectful to his family's wishes. During a family event for his sister's engagement, I felt out of place among the family celebrations. I watched as he handled his family's expectations like a pro, which made me feel more alone. We ended up arguing about the wedding, and he got defensive. The argument escalated into accusations about our commitment to each other. At that point, we decided to take a break from wedding planning to focus on our relationship, but things felt tense. We agreed to meet with a counselor to talk about our communication issues, realizing we needed some outside help. Edit. After reading the comments, it's clear many people misunderstood my fiancé. While he respects traditions, he felt overwhelmed by the clash of cultures. I also learned that his family wasn't as rigid as I initially thought. We still have some disagreements, but we're working through them with the counselor's guidance. Aita, for secretly saving money to escape my emotionally abusive husband. Aita, for secretly saving money to escape my emotionally abusive husband. I, a 33-year-old woman, have been dealing with difficult in-laws and a difficult husband, a 34-year-old man, for the duration of my marriage, which has lasted 5 years. We have a son together and live in his home state. I recently spoke with my friends about my situation, and they think I should leave my husband. Here is what the situation is. I am currently on maternity leave, and my husband has threatened to lock me out of our finances during fights. He has threatened to kick me out of the house before. He yells at me in front of our infant son. He uses traumatic life experiences against me. He tears me down when he's upset with me. He doesn't take me out on dates unless I arrange them, and he doesn't buy me gifts unless I buy them for myself, using money he has made from his income. He allows his mother to speak down to me. He lashes out at me when he's in a bad mood. He doesn't help around the house and did not take care of me postpartum. Here's what he doesn't do. He has never hit me. He has helped me settle my student debts. He does give in to most of my requests after we argue about them. He genuinely loves spending time with me. He has agreed to live in the part of town where I like to live. He never speaks badly about me to people. He has never cheated on me. He works hard for me and my son. After describing this to my friends, they all agreed that I need to leave him and fight for custody. They said I was being emotionally abused and that I do not seem comfortable or happy at home. I am not happy in my marriage, but I am hoping that with a lot of counseling, things can change. I am just worried about putting my child through a bad marriage where his father yells at his mother and threatens to kick her out when they argue. I don't think he will ever kick me out, but speaking to me like this really hurts. What do you all think? Leaving will be very hard for one main reason. I can't legally travel with our child without his permission. After divorce, he will never give it to me. He will trap me in his state, knowing I would never leave my child. I don't want to live an isolated life alone with my child without family because my husband lives here. There is no way my family can move to live with me for complicated reasons. They live very far away. They can't even visit me. They truly would if they could, but they genuinely can't. Given I won't be able to leave with my child, they will never be able to see him. If I don't divorce him, at least I can travel back and forth and be with my family. The alternative sounds like a much worse nightmare than I'm in. Can marriage counseling change any of this? Do you agree that this is emotional abuse? Are any of the good traits above indicative of the potential to change and be better? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Your friends are right. You need to get a lawyer and start gathering evidence. Also, document everything, especially the abuse in front of your child. It's interesting that you're thinking of staying not really because you want to make it work, but because you're scared and you feel he has you in bondage, so you have no choice. This is no reason to stay. This dynamic is not one your child should grow up witnessing. Comment 2. So he loves you, but he also loves to emotionally abuse you. In private, he seems like a jerk, but to others, everything looks fine. It won't get better. You can either deal with it or secretly build a nest egg to fall back on and confront him about these issues. Now for the update. I'm not gonna lie, the last few months have been a total mess, and not the fun kind either. So I took everyone's advice and reached out to a counselor. Definitely a good move, let me tell you. The counselor suggested I look into my options about custody and living arrangements. At this point, I had to get smart, so I started writing down every single thing my husband did. Like, everything. I noted the exact dates and actions because this dude thinks he's doing nothing wrong. It's all on me to do everything. To be fair, I have a lot of experience at this now. I guess that's what happens when you're a stay-at-home mom, right? Well, we went to dinner one night for my husband's birthday. I'd rather not have gone, but whatever. During the dinner, he made a joke about me needing a real job. Wow, what a guy. My mother-in-law laughed like it was the funniest thing ever, and then he spent the rest of the dinner going on about me not contributing financially. I mean, I'm on maternity leave. Let's not forget that little detail. After dinner, I tried to talk with him about needing help with our son during the week, like I needed to breathe, but he got all worked up. He was shouting about how ungrateful I am for everything he does. I get that he works hard, but I'm exhausted all the time too. It's not like I get a break just because I'm not working for a paycheck. My friends have been pushing me to have a serious talk with him about our issues. So I thought a New Year's celebration at my in-laws would be the perfect time. Yeah, no. It was a total mess. He publicly criticized my cooking in front of the family. Who does that? My brother-in-law actually had my back and defended me, saying I'm doing my best while managing a newborn. All the while, my husband just sat there like it was no big deal, letting me take the heat. After that little incident, his emotional outbursts became even more frequent. I took our son to the park one day, and he snapped at me for not packing his favorite toy. I mean, no one told me we were playing with the toy, but okay. I figured I would talk to him about going to couples counseling, to get some help. Total waste of my time. I brought it up, and he just brushed it off right away. Then we got into a heated argument, and he accused me of trying to control him. Excuse me? I am not trying to control anyone. At this point, I knew I had to do something. So I started saving money secretly, just a few bucks here and there from the grocery budget. I know, not ideal, but it's what I had to work with. The other day at a family barbecue, he was bragging to relatives about his job and how successful he is. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there like, hello? I'm the one managing a household and a newborn. I overheard him saying I was just a stay-at-home mom, like that was some lesser role. One of the family members warned me against confronting my husband directly without a plan. Like, no kidding. I learned that the hard way. One day, he found my hidden savings and accused me of planning to leave. He yelled at me, claiming I was betraying him. Then, he threatened to take our son away. That was the last straw for me. I set up a meeting with a lawyer to get advice on custody and my rights. Well, of course, he found out about my meeting with the lawyer and confronted me about it. He accused me of cheating on him. I mean, seriously. A week later, we got into a fight about finances, and he broke a family heirloom that belonged to me. I was heartbroken. At a family holiday gathering, he brought up the idea of moving to a different state for work. And then he had the nerve to tell me that he was applying for a new job and would be leaving soon for interviews. I felt like my whole world was falling apart. I can't keep living like this. I need to figure out a way out of this mess for me and my son. Mini update. I consulted a lawyer for custody advice. Things escalated with my husband, leading to broken items and his plans to move away. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.